The question is, what makes for a good intelligence analyst? What are the qualities of a good intelligence analyst? My first reaction to that question is that the most important part of or characteristic of a good intelligence analyst is that they are part of a good team. In other words, I don't think that there is such a concept as the perfect intelligence analyst who is able to navigate and analyze issues sort of on their own, solo, although this has been a concept a lot in intelligence analysis, the idea of the expert senior analyst who must be listened to in all regards. I think that's a flawed concept because I don't think any one individual can perfectly or adequately hold all the talents, mental talents, psychological talents necessary to be a good intelligence analyst. So, the best quality of a good intelligence analyst is that they're part of a good team. And the key part of the team is that it must be a team that has open and free conversation where different points of view and dissent are encouraged. There's a lot of literature. Recently, research has come out on the importance of diversity of thought in the outcomes for, let's say, knowledge workers. And the research shows that teams that have a lot of dissent tend to have better outcomes than teams that are driven top down, where one point of view is imposed on the team. And kind of my favorite part of this research is that the decision of a team, the analysis, just use that language of a team, improves when dissenters are heard, even if dissenters are wrong. So oftentimes you hear people dismiss the idea of diversity of thought or different viewpoints by saying, but I know they're wrong. But the dynamic actually is that by hearing these other views, even when they're wrong, it improves your outcome, it improves your analysis. So, what's going on here? I think what's going on here is that you work a little bit harder when you hear different points of view. Perhaps pride makes you want to, research it just a little bit more so that you can kill that point completely at the next meeting. Okay, so that's, a little aggressive, but nevertheless, you have improved your analysis. And I want to make a point about what is the role of the manager. If the best intelligence analyst is a function of a great analytic team, the role of the manager is to nurture that web of analytic talent and make sure that all the necessary parts to tackle the problem that he or she is confronting are available to the team. So, just to be a little bit controversial, if I were an analyst responsible for the United States right now, and I were the manager of an analytic team responsible for the United States, I would want to make sure that I had lots of psychologists, anthropologists, and sociologists on my team, or at least have that expertise available to my team, because you could argue that the US is having a nervous breakdown. Well, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, I'm not going to totally avoid the question of what are the attributes of good intelligence analysts. I would say that one of the qualities that makes me a good intelligence analyst is that I pay attention to really small things. I like to call myself the analyst of small things. And this comes from my experience and understanding of complexity theory, that a lot of change starts with the apparently insignificant actions of individual actors, and somehow it coalesces, creates some kind of momentum, and leads to some exponential change or a breaking point. So when I'm studying an analytic issue, a country, a society, I like to pay attention to what's going on in very small communities, in things like the arts, for example, because I kind of am counting on detecting an indicator of impending change that other people might not be paying attention to. I would say that I have a colleague, a very highly valued, esteemed colleague, who probably doesn't have that skill, but her skill is that she's very attuned to the importance of powerful things. And she's a fantastic researcher, creative and imaginative and indefatigable researcher. And that's her quality. And an analytic team dealing with a problem would be enriched by having someone like me on the team and having someone like her. A few more points about the qualities of a good analyst. I think the first thing I would say that this here's 3 points to end on. A good analyst is introspective, knows himself, knows his analytic blind spots, understands his biases, understands his cognitive or her cognitive weaknesses. So this sort of self-knowledge is, I think, an essential quality of a good intelligence analyst. So self-knowledge, number one. The second thing I would say is curiosity. I think good intelligence analysts are not dismissive of things that they learn, that they stumble upon, and are always approach them from the perspective of curiosity. Gee, what could this amount to? What could this lead to? What could this be the harbinger of? So curiosity is, I think, a second quality of good intelligence analyst. A third is open-mindedness, and I think it's kind of obvious how this links to curiosity. You can be curious, but if you're judgmental, it's not going to get you anywhere. So you notice things and you read up, you investigate them, but then you are likely to dismiss their importance. I think open-mindedness, keep yourself open to the idea that this could be significant as long as you possibly can. And I know that the demands of deadlines, etc., will shorten your ability, that period of time where you can study and be open-minded, but keep it as open as long as possible. Don't you be the person to artificially cut off your investigation into a topic. And just a final point I want to make about being a good intelligence analyst is I don't think you can be a good intelligence analyst if you haven't actually mastered some kind of knowledge domain. It could be woodworking, it could be gardening, it could be the Chinese Communist Party, it could be the chemical weapons or biological weapons, it could be the sociological dynamics of urban areas, it could be anything. But until you actually master a knowledge domain, so that you understand all the cognitive traps, you understand the good thinking in that domain and the bad thinking. You can distinguish between an article that's really making an important point and a discovery that is insignificant. You don't gain that ability until you really understand an intellectual domain. And until you have that experience of immersing yourself in an intellectual domain, then it's very hard for you to be a good analyst of any other issue. That's why, and this is may get me into trouble here, but my personal view is that rather than study intelligence per se as a field, it's better to actually acquire some other kind of degree in history or sociology or anthropology or whatever, criminal justice for that matter, and then put the practices of good intelligence analysis, overlay them over that domain. I think that's a better way to go than sort of trying to understand or learn intelligence analysis as a rote activity. Anyway, that's my answer to the qualities of a good intelligence analyst.